When I woke up, my new housekeeper was on top of me. Her reason left me speechless. When Elias Mercer woke up, the first thing he noticed was the weight. It pressed down on his chest, steady but heavy, like gravity had suddenly decided to double just for him. His breathing was shallow. The second thing he noticed was warmth, too close, not coming from the room's climate system. His eyes snapped open. Something was on top of him. Elias froze. A figure hovered inches above his face, braced on both arms, holding herself perfectly still. Large, dark eyes stared down at him with sharp focus. Her skin was pale gray, faintly patterned with thin lines that glowed soft blue. Her face was not human, but close enough to be unsettling. "Don't move," she said quietly. Her voice shook. The room around them hummed with a low, uneven sound. Red warning lights pulsed along the ceiling of the bedroom. The air felt thicker than it should have been, like breathing through water. Elias swallowed. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Talon," she said. "I am your housekeeper. Please don't move." Housekeeper, that word made no sense. Elias tried to lift his head. Instantly her grip tightened, not painful but firm. Her hands trembled as if holding something far heavier than him. "If you move," she said, almost pleading, "your chest will collapse." That got his attention. Slowly, he let his head sink back into the pillow. His heart raced, but he forced himself to breathe shallowly, just as she had been doing for him. "What's happening?" he asked. Talon swallowed. A bead of sweat rolled down the side of her face and floated sideways instead of falling. "The gravity regulators failed," she said. "They surged while you were asleep." Elias glanced sideways. The bedside table was pressed into the floor at a strange angle. A glass of water had flattened into a thin sheet, pinned down by invisible force. The digital clock was cracked, its display flickering. Gravity failure. That should not happen, not in a certified human residence, not in a house built by the Galactic Union itself. "Why aren't I dead?" Elias asked quietly. Talon's eyes flickered with something like fear. "Because I reacted fast," she said, "and because your species is fragile." That stung a little, but Elias let it go. "How?" he asked. She hesitated, then answered. "When the gravity spiked, I calculated your tolerance. Your bones would fail in 6 seconds, your organs in 8. Her jaw tightened. "I positioned myself to absorb part of the force." Elias stared at her. "You used your body?" he asked. "Yes." "That's insane," he said. Her lips pressed together. "For my species," she replied, "it is fatal." The words settled heavily between them. Elias felt suddenly very aware of her weight, of the tension in her arms, of how carefully she was balancing herself so that just enough force pressed on him to keep his body from tearing itself apart. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked. 4 minutes and 12 seconds, she said. 4 minutes. That was a long time to hold death at bay. "Talon," Elias said slowly, "you can move if you need to." She shook her head at once. "No," she said, "the system has not stabilized." As if to prove her point, the room groaned. The floor creaked. A crack appeared in the wall and spread like a spider web. Elias felt pressure increase slightly. His ribs protested. Talon grunted, her arms shaking. "You should not be here," she muttered. "Humans should not live on worlds with variable gravity." "Then why did the Union approve it?" Elias asked through clenched teeth. "Because humans insist," she said. "You always insist." That sounded almost like admiration. Almost. The house computer spoke then, its voice calm and empty. "Warning, gravity fluctuation at 30% above safe human limits. Emergency systems attempting correction." 30%? Elias whispered. "That is lower than before," Talon said, though her voice strained. "You are improving." "I'm not doing anything," he said. She let out a short, breathless laugh. "Exactly." Elias had been warned when he took the assignment. Human cultural liaison, outer systems. The job paid well. The location was beautiful. The risks were listed as minimal. He wondered who had written that report. "Talon," he said, "why did you do it?" She looked down at him, surprised. "Do what?" "Save me," he said. "You said it would kill you." Her eyes darkened. For a moment, Elias thought she might not answer. Then she said, "Because I have observed humans." "That doesn't explain much," he replied. "It explains everything," she said softly. Another tremor shook the room. The ceiling light shattered, the pieces flattening against the air like invisible glass. Talon hissed in pain. A thin line of dark fluid appeared along her forearm. "You're hurt," Elias said. "It does not matter," she replied. "It matters to me," he said without thinking. That made her pause. "You do not know me," she said. "I know you're keeping me alive," Elias answered. For a moment, the only sound was the struggling hum of the house systems. Then the computer spoke again. Gravity normalization at 60%, full stabilization expected in 90 seconds. Talon sagged slightly in relief, but she did not move away. 90 seconds, Elias repeated. You can hold that long, right? She didn't answer. Talon, he pressed. I will try, she said. That was not comforting. Elias felt something strange then, not fear for himself, but fear for her. You don't have to do this, he said. If you move now, maybe. You will die, she said firmly. Please stop talking. He did. Time stretched painfully slow. Every second felt like a weight pressing down harder. Talon's breathing became ragged. Her arms shook openly now. Sweat floated off her skin in trembling drops. Elias wanted to help. He wanted to push back to share the load, but his body refused to cooperate. Even lifting a finger felt impossible. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Her eyes flicked to his. For what? She asked. For making this your problem, he said. She gave a weak smile. That, she said, is the most human thing you could say. The floor shuddered again, then slowly, gently, the pressure began to ease. Elias sucked in a deep breath as his lungs expanded freely for the first time since waking. The red lights dimmed. Gravity stabilized, the computer announced. All systems nominal. Talon stayed frozen for a heartbeat longer, then she collapsed. Elias barely had time to register the sudden absence of weight before her body slid off him and hit the floor with a dull sound. Talon, he shouted. He forced himself upright, muscles screaming in protest. The room still felt heavy but survivable. He rolled onto his side and reached for her. She was breathing. Barely. Her skin had lost much of its glow. The door burst open as emergency responders rushed in, two tall beings in Union armor followed by a floating medical drone. They froze at the sight. A HFY, one of them said sharply. On a human, the medic scanned Talon, lights flashing. She used herself as a gravity buffer, it said. That is forbidden. Elias looked up at them, anger flaring despite his weakness. She saved my life, he said. The responders exchanged uneasy looks. One of them muttered, they're not supposed to do that. Elias didn't care what was supposed to happen. As the drone lifted Talon onto a stretcher, her eyes fluttered open briefly. She looked at him. You are alive, she whispered. Yes, Elias said. Because of you. Her lips curved into a faint, tired smile. Then she lost consciousness. Elias sat there on the floor of his new home, surrounded by broken furniture and shattered walls, heart pounding with a realization that left him speechless. This galaxy thought humans were weak, but someone had just been willing to die to prove they were worth saving. And Elias had a feeling this was only the beginning. Elias Mercer leaned against the wall of his new home, still trembling from the shock of the morning. Talon, his housekeeper, had been taken away by the medical drone. His mind replayed her face, her strange, glowing lines, and the weight of her body pressing him down to save his life. He had expected aliens to be cold, logical, even indifferent, but she had risked herself for him. The house was quiet now, too quiet. The hum of the gravity stabilizers returned to normal and the soft lights glowed evenly across the walls, yet the memory of Talon's actions left a strange energy in the air. It was not fear. It was awe. Elias shook his head. He needed answers. He walked into the living room where the wall panel blinked softly. It was the home's AI interface ready to assist him. Home AI, Elias said, show me the status report of Talon's species and any emergency protocols they might have that explain her behavior. The AI's screen flickered. A calm, neutral voice answered. Talon belongs to the HFY species, classified as humanoid sapiens. Average physical tolerance allows survival under varying gravity for up to 1 minute before critical damage occurs. Intervention by another HFY to stabilize a human is considered extremely dangerous and is classified as prohibited under Galactic Union law. Elias blinked. Prohibited? He asked. Why? The AI's tone was precise. The HFY have evolved in highly stable gravity environments. Any action that risks the life of one HFY for a human is considered an unnecessary hazard. It is statistically illogical. Elias rubbed his eyes. So she saved me by breaking the rules, and she almost died for it. That is correct, the AI said. The probability of survival for a HFY in such circumstances is less than 20%. Elias stared at the ceiling. She risked herself because of me. The thought weighed on him more than the gravity ever had. Humans had faced danger before, yes, but he had never seen someone from another species do it out of choice, out of care. He needed to understand her. A soft chime sounded from the door. It was the medical drone returning. It hovered in front of him and projected a thin holographic figure, Talon, connected to diagnostic sensors. Her skin glowed faintly again, but her eyes looked tired. "Talon," Elias said, his voice softer than usual, "I want to know why. Why did you do it?" She looked at him, hesitating. Then she said quietly, "Humans are unusual." "Unusual?" he repeated. "Yes," she said, her voice steadying. "Your species acts without probability. You care for others even when logic says you should not. You risk yourselves for strangers, for the weak, for your friends. Your decisions are not measured by survival, but by meaning." Elias frowned. "Meaning?" Talon nodded, her fingers twitching as if she wanted to gesture but could not. "You have been observed. Many Jedi do not understand it. Most species do not. But I have seen it before, and today I saw it in you. I could not ignore it." Elias' heart thudded. He realized something powerful. The universe had judged humans as fragile, unpredictable, and weak. But it had underestimated what made them strong. "You risked your life because you believed I was worth it?" he asked. Talon's eyes met his. "Yes." Elias took a deep breath. "I don't know what to say." "You do not need to say anything," she said. "Survival does not require gratitude." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I feel it anyway." For a long moment they sat in silence. The hum of the home systems and the soft glow of the holographic lights filled the room. Elias realized that for the first time in weeks he felt connected, not just to this alien housekeeper, but to something larger, something that mattered. "Tell me something, Talon," he said finally. "Have other humans survived like this? Other aliens risked themselves?" She shook her head. "Rarely. The Galactic Union does not assign Jedi to protect humans. We have observed humans on multiple worlds. Some survive because of technology. Some survive by chance. But a human saved by another species, it is almost unheard of." Elias leaned back. "Then I am lucky." "You are," she agreed. "And so are you responsible." Elias frowned. "Responsible?" "Yes," Talon said. "Your actions reflect your species. Others will watch what you do. They will judge humans by your decisions. Do not fail to show them who you are." Elias swallowed hard. He had expected this to be a quiet assignment, move to a remote planet, oversee research, and report back. He had never expected to carry the weight of his species' reputation on his shoulders. "You're saying the galaxy is watching me?" he asked. "Not you alone," she replied. "All humans, your survival, your choices, your courage, others take notice. They may not admit it, but they learn." He shivered. The thought that humans were being quietly observed by other species was both thrilling and terrifying. "Why didn't they assign another human?" he asked. "Wouldn't that have been safer?" Talon's lips pressed into a thin line. "Other humans have died trying to protect their own, but humans often succeed where logic fails. That is why I intervened. You were not expected to survive. I made a choice to ensure you did." Elias felt a strange mix of gratitude and responsibility. "And now?" he asked. "Now," Talon said, "you rest. Tomorrow you learn there is much about this world and about your assignment that you do not understand yet." Elias nodded, though sleep had already begun to tug at him. He realized that he could no longer think of Talon as just a housekeeper. She was more than that. She was a living testament to the unexpected power humans could inspire. As he lay down again, he thought about the cracks in the wall, the fallen furniture, and the weight that had almost killed him. He realized that life here would not be simple. It would demand courage. And perhaps in some strange way it would demand humanity, his kind of humanity. The next morning, Elias woke to find Talon sitting quietly in the kitchen area. She had been assigned additional medical support, but she insisted on remaining with him. "You should eat," she said. "You need strength." Elias nodded, still tired. He observed her closely. The glow in her lines was softer now. She looked almost human in her gestures, careful, patient, yet always aware. "Do you ever question your orders?" Elias asked. Talon paused. "Sometimes. But I have learned that humans do not always follow logic. They make choices that are impossible to predict, and sometimes that unpredictability is necessary." Elias considered this. It was strange to hear logic praised for being broken, but Talon's words carried weight. She had chosen to intervene, broken protocol, and risked herself, and she believed that was not just right but essential. "You mean humans survive because we take risks?" he asked. "Yes," she said. And not just for ourselves, for each other, for something greater. That is what makes humans worth protecting. Elias felt a rush of pride, unlike anything he had felt before. Humans had been underestimated for centuries. Yet here was proof. An alien had risked everything for a human because humans inspired something even logic could not measure. He realized that perhaps the universe had not seen the full potential of his species. Perhaps humans were stronger than anyone had believed. The day passed slowly. Talon helped him adjust to life on the new planet. She explained gravity fluctuations, environmental hazards, and the political climate. She did not speak much about herself, but Elias noticed small details. The way she tilted her head when curious, the precision of her movements, and the occasional soft smile when he displayed human ingenuity. By nightfall, Elias understood one undeniable truth. Talon was more than a housekeeper. She was a witness, a teacher, and perhaps unknowingly a believer in humanity. As he lay in bed that evening, Elias thought about the morning, about the weight of her body pressing him down, about the courage it took for an alien to defy protocol, about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that had quietly dismissed humans as weak. And for the first time in his life, Elias felt that being human was something remarkable, something worth protecting. And perhaps something worth fighting for. The morning sun rose slowly over the purple plains outside Elias Mercer's new home. He stared out the window, taking in the strange landscape. Tall, twisted rock formations that glowed faintly with mineral veins, rivers that shimmered with colors he could not name, and clouds that moved unnaturally fast across the sky. The planet was beautiful, but it was also dangerous. He had learned that much in less than 24 hours. Talon was already awake, moving quietly in the kitchen. She had prepared a simple breakfast, carefully measured for human dietary needs. Her precision and attentiveness reminded Elias again why she had risked herself to save him. She did not act out of obligation, she acted out of belief. "Good morning," Elias said, trying to shake off the lingering tension from yesterday. Talon did not smile, but she nodded. "You slept better than expected. That is a positive sign." "Positive for me," Elias said, "or for you?" "For both," she replied. "You need strength to survive here. I need assurance that my actions were not wasted." Elias frowned. "Wasted? You saved my life." "How could it be wasted?" Talon paused, considering her words. "If your species fails to survive, then my actions become meaningless. If humans do not continue to show the qualities that inspired me, it would all be lost." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. She was saying what he had begun to realize himself. Survival here was more than just avoiding death. It was about proving humans were more than fragile, unpredictable beings. After breakfast, Talon led him outside to begin his orientation. The planet's atmosphere was slightly denser than Earth's, making every movement feel heavier. Elias stumbled at first, but she guided him patiently, her hands steady and firm, correcting his posture and stride. "You must learn to move differently here," she explained. "The winds can shift unpredictably. Gravity spikes are rare, but they still occur. Every motion counts." Elias nodded, absorbing every detail. He felt alive in a way he had never experienced before. Every instinct, every movement mattered. And every step reminded him of Talon's sacrifice. As they walked, a subtle shimmer appeared in the sky. At first, Elias thought it was a reflection of sunlight on mineral dust. Then he noticed patterns, geometric, deliberate, too precise to be natural. "Do you see that?" he asked. Talon's eyes narrowed. "Yes, that is not natural. Those are observers." "Observers?" Elias asked. "They are interstellar watchers," Talon said quietly. "They monitor human settlements across the galaxy. They decide which species to observe, which to ignore. Humans are unusual. They draw attention even when you do not know it." Elias stopped walking. "You're saying we're being watched?" Talon nodded. "Always, your species has qualities that other species cannot understand. You inspire curiosity. Some admire you. Others fear what humans might do if allowed to grow." Elias felt a mix of pride and unease. Being watched was one thing. Being studied as if humans were an experiment was something else entirely. "Do they know I'm here?" he asked. "Not yet," she said, "but they will notice. Your survival yesterday, your actions, those are signals. You have made your presence known." Elias shivered. He thought of the moment when Talon had pressed her body against his to save him. That simple act had sent ripples far beyond this planet. Someone or something was watching, and it was learning about humans through him. They continued their walk, and Talon explained more about the Jedi culture. Unlike humans, Jedi prioritized survival above all else. Sacrifice was a foreign concept. Risk was illogical. Yet here she had defied her entire species to save a human. "Why risk yourself for humans?" Elias asked again, curiosity burning inside him. Talon paused, looking down at him with her dark, glowing eyes. "Because humans are unpredictable in ways that matter. You act for reasons beyond logic. You care for others in ways that cannot be measured. That inspires even those who are not like you. That is why I risked my life." Elias felt a surge of warmth. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. But Talon had seen something worth protecting, and he realized for the first time that humans could inspire loyalty, bravery, and admiration beyond their own species. As they approached a rocky ridge overlooking a deep valley, the shimmer in the sky grew stronger. Elias could make out small shapes, tiny ships, almost invisible against the clouds. "Observers," Talon whispered. "They are choosing vantage points. They want to see more." Elias felt his pulse quicken. "What do they want to see?" "Your species' behavior," she said. "Do you survive? Do you adapt? Do you inspire others? That is what matters to them. That is what they report back to their own people." Elias stared at the tiny ships, realizing that humans were being quietly evaluated across the galaxy. He thought of Earth, of humanity's history of resilience and courage, and he felt a surge of pride. Humans had always overcome impossible odds, and now, somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that lesson firsthand. "Do they understand what humans are?" Elias asked. Talon shook her head. "Not yet. Most species cannot. They observe what they can measure: strength, speed, technology. But humans act for reasons they cannot measure. Humans care for things beyond themselves. Humans make choices that defy prediction. That is why they are both fascinating and dangerous." Elias felt a thrill. Dangerous. That was not a word he had expected to hear in reference to humans, but he understood what she meant. Humans were not just survivors. They were unpredictable, creative, and capable of actions that no logic could explain. That unpredictability was a form of power. Suddenly, one of the observers moved closer, descending silently toward the valley floor. Elias squinted. It was small, almost spherical, with reflective surfaces. The ship hovered for a moment, then scanned the terrain below. "They are studying everything," Talon said. "Your movement, my behavior, the environment itself. Everything is recorded." Elias swallowed. "Even you." "Yes," she said, "even me. They will note my actions. They will note my choices. They will note that I risked myself for a human." Elias looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. Her actions were not just personal. They were now a message to the galaxy. Humans are worth protecting. Humans inspire loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. Humans are extraordinary. He felt a sudden responsibility. The galaxy was watching. Every decision he made could influence how humans were seen. Every action mattered. "Do we have to worry about them?" he asked. Talon shook her head. "No, observation alone is not a threat, but they are learning, they are judging. That is why you must act carefully and bravely." Elias nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. He had survived the morning because Talon had saved him, but now he realized that survival alone was not enough. Humans had to prove their worth. As they made their way back to the home, Elias thought about the lessons of the past 24 hours. Courage, loyalty, and unpredictability were more valuable than strength or speed. Humans had a unique power that others could not understand. And Talon had risked her life to show him that. That night, Elias lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the observers in the sky. Somewhere out there, beings of unimaginable intelligence were learning about humans through him. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was beginning to understand what made humans remarkable, and he felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. He had survived the morning, but now he realized surviving was only the beginning. He had to live as a human, fully, bravely, and without compromise, because the galaxy was watching. And humanity's story was just beginning. The next morning, Elias Mercer woke early, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. The events of the previous day were still fresh in his mind. Talon had risked her life to save him, and now the galaxy was watching. Every move he made, every decision mattered. Talon was already awake, moving quietly through the kitchen. Her glowing lines pulsed softly in the dim light, a faint reminder of the energy that had saved him. "You are ready for today's mission," she said without preamble. Elias frowned. Mission, I thought my job was administrative. Talon tilted her head. Your assignment is more than paperwork. You are here to observe, report, and ensure the success of human operations. Today, you will accompany me to the observation point. The observation point? Elias repeated. It is a location where data on planetary activity is gathered, Talon explained. Your species' presence there will be recorded. You will demonstrate human adaptability. You will demonstrate courage. And most importantly, you will demonstrate judgment. Elias felt a nervous thrill. Finally, action. He had trained for situations like this, theoretically, but nothing had prepared him for real danger or for being watched by the galaxy. They left the house, moving carefully over the rocky terrain. Elias noticed how Talon moved differently than him, precise, economical, every step calculated. He struggled to match her pace, stumbling occasionally as his body adjusted to the subtle differences in gravity and atmospheric density. Keep your focus, she said. Every mistake is recorded. Elias nodded. The thought of being observed sharpened his senses. Every sound, every shadow, every shift in the wind demanded attention. After an hour of climbing and careful navigation, they reached the observation point, a cliff overlooking a valley filled with unusual flora. Towering crystal trees rose from the ground, glowing faintly in the sunlight. Streams of liquid light wound between them, reflecting in the crystals like ribbons of color. The scene was breathtaking, almost hypnotic. Beautiful, Elias whispered. Yes, Talon said, but beauty can be dangerous. Many have underestimated it. She led him closer to the edge, pointing toward a small dome at the valley's center. Sensors and communication arrays dotted the landscape, clearly part of the observation point. A few small robotic units moved among the crystalline trees, scanning, collecting samples, and transmitting data. This is your first test, Talon said. You must reach the dome, collect data, and return safely. Simple instructions, but the terrain is treacherous. You will face environmental hazards. You will face unpredictable conditions. Your response will be recorded. Elias swallowed. This was no ordinary hike. But he remembered Talon's words, courage, judgment, and adaptability. If humans were to prove their value, he could not fail. They began their descent into the valley. Elias struggled at first, slipping on smooth crystal surfaces, nearly losing his footing. Talon moved beside him, offering steadying hands and quiet encouragement. Remember, she said, observe, plan, act. Do not panic. Do not overthink. Adapt. Elias focused, watching every detail. The angle of the crystal slopes, the flow of the streams, the movement of the robotic units. He noticed shadows moving among the trees, subtle changes in the wind, and the faint hum of energy flowing through the crystals. Suddenly, a small tremor shook the valley floor. Elias stumbled, nearly falling into a stream of liquid light. The surface was deceptively slippery, but he managed to catch himself on a crystal root. Careful, Talon warned. These streams can destabilize the ground. One wrong step can trap you or worse. Elias nodded, his heart pounding. He realized that survival here required more than strength. It required observation, patience, and understanding the environment. Humans had always relied on tools and intelligence, but here, instincts mattered just as much. As they approached the dome, another tremor shook the valley, larger this time. The robotic units scurried, adjusting their positions. Elias felt a rush of fear. One wrong step could ruin everything. Talon moved beside him, guiding him with a firm grip. Do not freeze. Humans succeed when others panic. Remember that. Elias nodded, drawing courage from her words. He focused on the path, watching the movement of the ground, and adjusted his steps carefully. Step by step, he approached the dome. When they reached the dome, Elias marveled at its construction. Smooth metallic walls reflected the light of the crystals. Sensors and antennas jutted outward like delicate spires. The technology was advanced but accessible to humans. Talon guided him to a control panel, showing him the steps to collect the required data. Observe carefully, she instructed. Record environmental readings, gravity levels, energy flow, and any anomalies. The observers will note accuracy, speed, and judgment. Errors are recorded, but how you respond is more important than perfection. Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He input the data carefully, double-checking each reading. Every entry mattered. Every choice reflected on humans as a species. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Crystals cracked, and a gust of wind surged through the valley. Elias stumbled, nearly dropping the data. Talon braced him with her strength, her body absorbing part of the force. "You are okay," she said. "Keep going." Elias took a deep breath and focused. He realized that humans' greatest advantage was their ability to act under pressure. Panic was natural, but adaptation, courage, and quick thinking set humans apart. He finished the data collection and signaled Talon. They began the return journey, but the valley had changed. Crystals had shifted, streams had surged, and new hazards appeared. The tremors continued, unpredictable and dangerous. Elias' heart raced, but he remembered Talon's guidance: observe, plan, act. He adjusted his path, using small jumps, careful grips, and quick assessments. Each step tested his balance, his judgment, and his ability to adapt. Talon watched him closely, noting every decision. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting a mixture of concern and admiration. Elias felt a surge of determination. He would not fail, not for himself, not for Talon, and not for humanity. Halfway back, a large section of crystal collapsed, blocking their path. Elias froze, unsure how to proceed. Talon gestured to a narrow ridge nearby. "You must take the risk," she said. "Humans survive when others hesitate. This is your test." Elias nodded, feeling fear and resolve collide. He carefully climbed the ridge, using every ounce of balance and strength. His heart pounded, but step by step, he moved across the narrow path, the valley floor far below. When he reached the other side, Talon followed, her movements precise and controlled. Elias realized that she trusted him, not just to survive, but to act as a human should. Finally, they reached solid ground near the edge of the valley. Elias looked back at the dome, the crystals, and the flowing streams. The challenge was complete. The data was collected. He had survived the hazards. Talon looked at him, her glowing lines pulsing softly. "You have succeeded," she said. "Your judgment, adaptability, and courage have been noted. The observers have recorded everything. You have proven that humans are remarkable." Elias felt a swell of pride. He realized that survival was more than living through danger. Survival was about choice, action, and the willingness to face the unknown. Humans had always excelled at this. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for guiding me and for believing in me." Talon's eyes softened. "You do not need my belief. You carry the proof within yourself." Humans survive, humans inspire, humans act. As they returned to the home, Elias felt a new sense of purpose. The galaxy was watching. The observers had recorded his actions, and through him, they were beginning to understand humans. Not as fragile creatures, not as unpredictable fools, but as beings capable of courage, judgment, and adaptability beyond measure. That night, Elias lay in bed, thinking about the day. Every tremor, every hazard, every decision had been a test. He had faced danger, adapted, and acted with courage. And through it all, he had realized something profound. Humans were more than survivors. Humans were exemplars of bravery, creativity, and spirit. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning this lesson firsthand. And Elias knew that his journey was only beginning. Because proving humanity's worth was not about one day or one mission. It was about every choice, every action, and every moment where humans stood up and faced the unknown. And Elias was ready to do just that. The morning air was crisp and sharp as Elias Mercer stepped outside. The previous day's mission still weighed heavily on him, not with fear, but with the strange responsibility of knowing the galaxy was watching. Somewhere out there, unseen observers had recorded every slip, every decision, and every moment of courage he had shown. Talon was already waiting, moving through the rocky terrain with her usual precision. Her glowing lines pulsed faintly in rhythm with her steps. Elias felt a mix of awe and comfort, knowing she had risked herself for him and was now guiding him again. "Today," Talon said, "you face a different test. Observation alone is not enough. The galaxy will notice your ability to make difficult choices. You will encounter a situation with no obvious solution. How you act will define how humans are perceived." Elias' stomach tightened. He was beginning to understand that this assignment was more than data collection. It was about demonstrating human qualities, judgment, courage, and the willingness to act when the outcome was uncertain. They walked toward a canyon that Talon had marked as a training zone. The path was uneven, filled with jagged rocks, loose soil, and occasional fissures in the ground. Even in daylight, shadows shifted unnaturally, hiding hazards that the eye could barely detect. As they reached the edge, Talon pointed to a distant ridge. "There are two paths to reach the far side of the canyon. Both are dangerous. One is short but unstable. One is long but exposed. You must choose. Elias stared at the options. The short path looked easier at first glance, but he noticed subtle cracks in the rock. The long path was completely exposed and winds could push him off balance. His mind raced. Every instinct, every lesson from the previous day told him that either path could be fatal. Talon watched silently. Consider carefully. Your choice will be observed. The observers note not only success, but the reasoning behind your actions. Humans are judged by decisions, not luck. Elias swallowed. The weight of her words settled over him. Humans had always been clever, resourceful, and capable of courage, but this was a test of judgment. He could not rely on reflexes alone. He examined the short path. Loose rocks, narrow ledges, and a thin layer of crystal dust made it treacherous. One misstep could send him tumbling. Then he looked at the long path. Exposed, yes, but stable. No shifting rocks, only wind and the need for careful balance. He could see the path clearly, plan each step, and move deliberately. Elias made his decision. He turned toward the long path. Talon nodded faintly. A wise choice. Humans survive when they consider all variables, not when they gamble blindly. They began the trek. The wind lashed at them, threatening to unbalance them as they moved along the ridge. Elias felt his heart pound with every gust, but he focused on each step, placing his feet carefully and maintaining his center of gravity. Halfway across, a sharp gust knocked him off balance. He stumbled, reaching instinctively for a handhold, but the edge crumbled slightly under his weight. Elias froze for a second, then remembered Talon's lessons. Observe, plan, act. He repositioned his feet, adjusted his balance, and pressed forward. You adapt quickly, Talon said quietly. That is human strength. Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans had survived impossible odds for centuries, through war, natural disasters, and exploration. Now in this strange canyon, he was proving that same resilience. As they approached the far side, the wind intensified. A large rock formation threatened to block their path entirely. There was no way around it. Elias would have to climb. He hesitated. The climb was steep, with loose grips and sharp edges. One wrong move could send him plummeting into the canyon below. Talon looked at him. Humans survive when they take calculated risks, decide, then act. Elias took a deep breath. He climbed, testing each grip before committing his weight. His muscles strained, his hands scraped against rough stone, but he moved steadily upward. Halfway up, a section gave way. He fell, catching himself just in time on a lower ledge. His heart pounded, but he did not give up. Talon moved beside him, steadying him with a careful touch. You are learning quickly, she said. Your species survives because you do not surrender to fear. Finally, Elias reached the top. He looked back at the canyon and felt a wave of exhilaration. He had faced uncertainty, danger, and choice, and he had acted with judgment and courage. But the test was not over. As they descended the far side of the canyon, they encountered a small alien creature trapped under a fallen crystal formation. Its limbs flailed and it emitted a high-pitched sound of distress. Elias froze. The instructions had been clear: do not endanger yourself, focus on the mission. But here was a life in danger, a creature weak and vulnerable depending on someone to act. Talon watched silently. Elias realized that this was the real test. Would he risk himself for another being? Would he act with the courage that humans were known for, or would he retreat to safety? Without thinking, Elias moved forward. He assessed the weight of the crystal, the stability of the ground, and the creature's position. Carefully, he lifted the edge enough to allow the creature to escape. It scurried to safety, chittering in gratitude. Talon's eyes widened slightly. You have made the choice that defines humans, she said. You act not only for survival, but for life itself. That is why your species is remarkable. Elias felt a strange mix of pride and relief. He had made a difficult choice, and it had been the right one. He realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about choosing to act for the greater good, even when personal risk was high. As they continued, the observers in the sky, small, spherical ships, moved closer. Elias could sense them now, hovering silently above the canyon, recording every moment. He wondered what they thought of him, of humans, of the choice he had made to save the creature. Talon said quietly, "They are learning. Your actions, your judgment, your willingness to act, these are the qualities that define your species. They are noting everything. Your courage is contagious." Elias smiled faintly. Humans had always inspired others through deeds, not words. Now across the galaxy, unseen beings were beginning to understand that. Finally, they returned to the home. Elias was exhausted, his muscles aching from the climb and the long trek, but he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had faced uncertainty, danger, and moral choice, and he had proven not only to himself but to the galaxy that humans were remarkable. Talon looked at him with her faintly glowing lines pulsing steadily. You have passed the test of judgment. You have acted with courage, adaptability, and morality. The observers will report this. Humans are no longer just survivors. Humans are beings of influence. Elias sat down, feeling the weight of her words. The galaxy was watching. Somewhere out there, beings of intelligence beyond his imagination were learning about humans. And through his actions, they were beginning to understand what made humanity extraordinary. That night, as Elias lay in bed, he reflected on the day's events. He had faced danger, made difficult choices, and acted with courage and compassion. He had survived, yes, but more importantly, he had proven something fundamental. Humans were capable of extraordinary judgment, resilience, and moral action. Somewhere in the vastness of space, observers were taking notes, learning from him. And through that observation, humans were gaining recognition, respect, and perhaps even admiration. Elias knew that his journey was far from over. The galaxy was watching, and humans had a chance to show what they were truly capable of. Every choice, every action, and every moment of courage mattered. And Elias Mercer was ready to face it all, not just for himself, but for the entire species. Because humanity was more than survivors. Humanity was a force, and the universe was beginning to notice. The morning air was cool and sharp as Elias Mercer stepped outside, Talon moving silently beside him. The events of the previous days had already begun to change something in him. He no longer felt like just another human in the galaxy. He felt like a representative of his species. Every action, every decision had consequences far beyond himself. Today, Talon said, her voice calm yet serious, you will see the first response from the observers. They are not passive anymore. Your actions have reached a point where others are beginning to respond indirectly. How you act will influence not only your survival but the perception of humans across multiple worlds. Elias frowned. Respond? What do you mean? She gestured to the horizon where faint metallic shapes shimmered in the sky. The observers are beginning to intervene subtly. They test humans in ways that challenge judgment and courage. They do not harm directly, but they create situations where your species' qualities are revealed. Today you will face such a situation. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline. Every day had been a test, but now he understood the stakes. The galaxy was watching, recording, and learning. Humans were no longer just being observed, they were being evaluated. As they moved toward the canyon again, a low hum filled the air. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew steadily, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. The rocky terrain seemed to shift slightly, creating new challenges. An environmental anomaly, Talon explained, likely induced by the observers. They are testing human adaptability under stress. Elias' heart pounded. He had survived tremors, loose rocks, and strong winds before, but the knowledge that this was deliberately induced added another layer of pressure. They reached the edge of the canyon, where the anomaly was concentrated. A section of the canyon floor had shifted, creating a precarious bridge of rock across a deep fissure. The gap was wider than before, the winds stronger and the vibrations unpredictable. You must cross, Talon said. Your decision, speed, and caution will be recorded. How you respond under uncertainty is what defines your species. Elias studied the bridge. It was narrow, unstable, and could collapse under the slightest misstep. One wrong move and he would fall into the fissure below. Yet the data he needed to collect lay on the far side. He took a deep breath, focusing on the lessons Talon had taught him. Observe, plan, act. He stepped onto the bridge cautiously, testing each rock before committing his weight. The wind buffeted him, trying to push him off balance, but he adjusted constantly, moving deliberately. Halfway across, a sharp vibration caused one section of rock to crumble. Elias stumbled, catching himself on the edge. His heart raced, but he did not panic. He adjusted his steps, using both balance and quick judgment to continue. Talon followed, her own movements precise yet supportive. Humans survive when others hesitate, she said. Your species excels because you act when fear is present. Elias felt a surge of pride. Humans had always faced impossible odds, from wars to natural disasters to exploration of unknown worlds. Here, on a distant planet, he was demonstrating that same courage and adaptability. As they reached the far side, a new challenge appeared. A small alien creature was trapped under a rock, unable to move. Its cries echoed through the canyon, drawing Elias' attention immediately. He froze. The instructions had been clear: do not take unnecessary risks. Focus on the mission. But here was a life in danger dependent on someone acting. Talon watched silently. Elias realized this was another test, one not of physical skill but of morality. Would he risk himself for another being? Would he act with compassion and courage, the qualities humans were known for? Without hesitation, Elias moved forward. He assessed the rock, the stability of the ground, and the safety of his own movements. Carefully, he lifted it enough for the creature to escape. It scurried to safety, its tiny limbs moving quickly as it disappeared into the canyon. Talon's eyes glowed softly. "You act not only for yourself but for life itself," she said. "That is why your species is remarkable." Elias realized something profound. Courage was not only about facing danger, it was about choosing to act for the greater good, even at personal risk. Humans had always done this, often without recognition. Now, across the galaxy, unseen observers were learning the same lesson. As they continued their mission, a new anomaly appeared. A sudden fissure opened beneath their path, forcing Elias to leap across a gap he could barely see. He hesitated, heart racing. The observers were testing his judgment and ability to act quickly under pressure. He took a running start and leapt, landing with a stumble but recovering quickly. Talon nodded approvingly. "Quick thinking and courage," she said. "Humans survive because you do not freeze in the face of uncertainty." Elias felt a mix of relief and exhilaration. Every challenge was a chance to demonstrate human qualities: adaptability, courage, judgment, and morality. Each success, each decision was being observed and recorded. Finally, they reached the observation dome. Elias collected the required data, noting environmental conditions, energy flows, and anomalies. He worked methodically, double-checking his entries, aware that the observers were noting his precision, judgment, and composure. When the task was complete, Talon guided him back to solid ground. Elias was exhausted, but a deep sense of accomplishment filled him. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and moral choices, and he had proven that humans were extraordinary. "You have succeeded again," Talon said. "Your actions will be noted by the galaxy. Humans are no longer just observed. They are now respected, cautiously admired, and understood in ways previously thought impossible." Elias felt pride swell in his chest. Humans had always survived, yes, but now he realized their true strength was in courage, judgment, and moral action. The galaxy was beginning to recognize these qualities. Talon's gaze softened. "Your species inspires loyalty, bravery, and hope. You have demonstrated qualities that many cannot understand. That is why humans are remarkable." Elias nodded, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had a chance to show what it was capable of. Every choice, every action, every moment of courage mattered. That night, Elias lay in bed, reflecting on the day. He had faced environmental hazards, moral dilemmas, and deliberate tests designed by unseen observers. He had survived, acted courageously, and demonstrated human qualities in every decision. Somewhere in the vastness of space, beings of intelligence beyond his understanding were learning from him. They were beginning to see humans not as fragile, unpredictable creatures, but as beings capable of extraordinary courage, judgment, and morality. Elias understood that his journey was far from over. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had a chance to show what it was truly capable of. Every decision, every action, and every moment of courage mattered. He closed his eyes, thinking of Talon's sacrifice, her guidance, and the lessons she had taught him. Humans were more than survivors. They were a force. They inspired, they acted, and they proved that even in the most dangerous circumstances, courage and morality could define a species. And Elias Mercer was ready to face whatever the galaxy would test next. Because the universe was watching, and humanity's story was only beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over the distant horizon, casting long shadows across the purple plains. Elias Mercer stood outside his home, looking at the alien landscape with a sense of purpose. He had survived tremors, unstable terrain, moral dilemmas, and environmental anomalies. Every step had tested him, every decision had been observed. Now the final test was about to begin. Talon moved silently beside him, her glowing lines pulsing faintly. There was no need for words. Both of them understood the weight of the day ahead. The observers were no longer passive. They were acting, testing not only his survival skills but also the essence of humanity itself. The final test, Talon said quietly, is not about data, not about agility, not even about courage alone. It is about proving that humans are a species worth watching, worth understanding, and worth respecting. The galaxy is judging more than your survival. It is judging your choices, your compassion, your judgment, and your spirit. Elias nodded. He felt the tension in his chest, but it was different from fear. It was determination. Humans had always faced impossible odds, and now he was representing not just himself, but an entire species. They began the trek toward a massive valley, wider and deeper than any he had crossed before. The terrain was rough, jagged rocks rising like spires, streams of liquid light cutting across the valley floor, and winds that twisted unpredictably. Somewhere high above, faint metallic shapes shimmered, observer ships recording, evaluating, analyzing. "Be careful," Talon said. "The observers will create unpredictable conditions. They want to see your species respond, adapt, and persevere." Elias adjusted his backpack, feeling the weight of both supplies and responsibility. Step by step, he moved forward, following Talon's guidance while also observing independently. Every sound, every shadow, every vibration was noted, measured, and accounted for. Halfway into the valley, a sudden tremor shook the ground. A section of the crystalline stream erupted, sending waves of light and energy cascading across the valley floor. Elias stumbled, nearly falling into the shifting currents. Talon caught him with a careful hand. "Do not freeze," she said. "Humans survive by acting when others hesitate." Elias took a deep breath and steadied himself. He analyzed the situation, the unstable ground, the flowing energy, and the path that could carry him safely across. Step by step, he moved, testing each foothold before committing his weight. His heart pounded, but he refused to panic. As they progressed, a new challenge appeared, a group of small alien creatures trapped behind a collapsed crystal formation. Their cries echoed through the valley. Elias froze, remembering previous lessons. The observers were watching. How he responded would define humanity's character. Without hesitation, he approached the creatures. He assessed the weight of the crystals, the stability of the ground, and the safest way to free them. Carefully, he lifted and shifted the pieces just enough for the creatures to escape. One by one, they scurried to safety, chittering in what Elias imagined was gratitude. Talon's eyes glowed faintly. "You have acted with compassion and judgment," she said. "That is the essence of humanity. You act not only for survival, but for life itself." Elias felt pride, but he also realized the true depth of the observer's test. They were not interested in simple survival. They were measuring morality, judgment, adaptability, and courage, the very qualities that defined humans in ways logic could not measure. As they neared the center of the valley, the terrain became more treacherous. Rocks shifted unpredictably, winds surged, and streams of light changed direction suddenly. A misstep could result in serious injury or worse. Talon paused. "You must make a choice. The observers will watch how you respond. There is no perfect solution. The correct choice is the one that reflects your species' values." Elias studied the landscape. There were two possible routes, one shorter but unstable with a risk of falling debris, the other longer but exposed to strong winds and sharp edges. Both carried danger. Both would test him. He thought about what Talon had taught him. Humans survived not by avoiding risk, but by acting with judgment and courage. He chose the longer path, careful to maintain balance and assess each step. The wind threatened to push him off, but he adjusted constantly, using his intelligence and physical ability in tandem. Halfway through, a sudden surge caused part of the path to collapse. Elias stumbled, heart racing. Talon moved to steady him, her hand guiding his center of gravity. He remembered the creatures he had saved earlier and drew courage from that memory. Step by step, he continued. Finally, they reached a safe ledge overlooking the center of the valley. Below, the observation dome glimmered, surrounded by robotic units and sensors. The data they had been sent to collect lay waiting. Elias moved toward the dome, mindful of each footstep, each movement. Inside, he gathered environmental readings, noting gravity fluctuations, energy flows, and temperature variations. Each entry was accurate, deliberate, and carefully recorded. He worked quickly, aware that the observers would evaluate not just the data itself, but how he collected it, methodically, calmly, and with judgment. Suddenly, a loud vibration shook the dome. Panels rattled and lights flickered. The observers were initiating a final test, an indirect challenge to see how humans respond under pressure. Elias froze for a moment, then remembered Talon's guidance: act, adapt, survive, and protect life whenever possible. He quickly assessed the situation, adjusted his movements, and stabilized the equipment. Step by step, he completed the task, ensuring no damage occurred and all data remained intact. Talon watched him silently, her eyes reflecting pride. "You have completed the final test," she said. "Your actions demonstrate what humans are capable of: courage, judgment, adaptability, and moral strength. The observers will record this as proof that your species is remarkable." Elias felt a wave of relief and pride. The galaxy had been watching, evaluating, and now it had witnessed humanity's true potential. Humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, protectors, and moral beings capable of extraordinary courage. As they made their way back home, Talon spoke softly. "Your species has been underestimated for centuries. The galaxy has observed humans as fragile and unpredictable. Today, you have shown that humans are capable of far more. Your actions will influence how others view humanity." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. It was more than personal pride. It was a responsibility, a chance to represent humanity in a universe that had often overlooked them. That night, as Elias lay in bed, he reflected on everything that had happened. He had faced tremors, environmental hazards, moral dilemmas, and indirect tests from observers he could not see. Each challenge had been a demonstration of human qualities: courage in the face of danger, judgment in uncertainty, adaptability under pressure, and compassion for life. Somewhere in the vastness of space, observers were recording, learning, and taking notes. Through Elias, humanity had proven its worth. Humans were no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were beings capable of inspiring loyalty, courage, and admiration. Talon sat nearby, her eyes glowing softly. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have proven that humans are extraordinary. The galaxy is beginning to understand. Your species has the potential to influence worlds, inspire others, and act with moral strength beyond comprehension." Elias smiled faintly. "It feels overwhelming," he said. "To know that the galaxy is watching and that everything we do matters." Talon nodded. "It is, but it is also why your species is remarkable. Humans act when others hesitate. Humans protect when others retreat. Humans choose when others are uncertain. That is why you are noticed. That is why you are respected." Elias thought about Earth, about humanity's history of exploration, survival, and courage. He thought about Talon, who had risked herself to save him, and about the observers who were learning through him. He realized that humanity's true strength lay not in technology, numbers, or weapons, but in courage, judgment, and morality. Somewhere far across the galaxy, beings of intelligence beyond his understanding were learning from humans. They were seeing the same qualities that had allowed humans to survive, explore, and thrive. Elias felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility. Humanity's story was no longer confined to one planet or one species. It was being written across the stars, observed, recorded, and respected. And he knew that this was only the beginning. Humans had survived impossible odds before, but now they had proven something greater: that courage, judgment, and morality could define a species. That humans were capable of inspiring loyalty, admiration, and respect across the galaxy. Elias looked at Talon and nodded. "We've done more than survive," he said. "We've shown what humans can do." Talon's lines pulsed softly in response. "Yes, and now the universe knows. Humans are more than survivors. Humans are remarkable." Elias closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. The galaxy was watching, learning, and beginning to understand. Humanity's story had only just begun, and somewhere out there, observers were recording the proof. Proof that humans could adapt, survive, act with courage, and make moral choices in the face of danger. Proof that humans were worthy of respect. Proof that humanity was extraordinary. Elias Mercer smiled as he drifted to sleep. The galaxy was watching, and humans had shown their strength, and humanity's journey among the stars had truly begun.